My name is Andrew Hedrick. I am a civil engineer at Gartley and Dorsey. They have said wonderful things about this proposed parking lot. What I'm here to do is I can answer any of the questions you have. I know I've heard a lot of concerns about access and mobility and space sizing. And the big one I heard was about space is lost. And as an engineer, the first thing I do is I look at these things. I look at the lots. I look at how things are laid out, as we did on this original lot and as it existed. The first thing I do is I start putting X's on spaces that actually don't meet any current standards, and they're just lines on pavement. So you go around the existing lot. Here's a blown up section of the existing lot. And you can go through this section through here and look at the spaces that can't be used. So the Camden ordinance has a 10 by 20 foot space requirement. That's the parking space. Then they want you to have a 20-foot aisle, and then on the other side another 10 to 20-foot space. That's 60 feet in total, essentially. What you have in this Mechanic Street lot is about 58 to 60 feet, so you're close. The difficulty is that doesn't take into account that there's a utility pole, there's a retaining wall, there's propane tanks, there's crumbling wall sections, and there's lots of other things going along that. So I drove by today actually, and I noticed that all the cars, they're short. They park short. So they don't pull right up to that retaining wall. They don't pull right up to those utility poles. They're sitting about 2 or 3 feet behind where that starts. So it forces those cars out. So we're already short on our distance that we need. The 60 feet ideal, like worst case scenario is 60 feet. And then you have a car that's parking short of that, and they're pushing the car back into the travel lanes. And ultimately, it requires you to have 3, 4, 5 more feet in there to actually get vehicles in and out. Now we know we've all gone by that parking lot and it's absolutely full. All the cars are in there. You have spaces for everybody. But they're all a lot of compact cars that get in and get out, and you don't have like any of the modern vehicles. Not that those aren't modern as well. They're probably more modern than the other ones. But the larger size vehicles that can't have access, you actually can't make the turn. And I was glad to see one of those photos that showed the two vehicles reaching each other, because I have tried this every which way, trying to get two vehicles by there using my programs, using my turning radiuses, and they just don't work. I've seen it done, but they're small cars, they stop and wait. So trying to do the other approach to things is acknowledging that we didn't really have the two access points through that lot to begin with. We started looking at the one access point. We all understand nobody likes a dead-end parking lot. You pull in, you get stuck, now what do you do? So to remedy that situation, what we did is we put a lot of stripe at the end of the lane, so we use that van accessible spot at the end of the parking, as well as one on the other side that we'll use to allow you to pull into the lot entirely, use that space. If you pull in and they happen to be all full, you can't tell until you get into the lot, you can pull in and easily turn around. And we're not talking like little parking space. It's 14 to 16 feet wide, all hatched, striped, no parking signs will go up there on both sides of that. So even if you have 2 or 3 vehicles that happen to pull in simultaneously, they can easily pull in this, queue up. Much more vehicles can fit in there than you could in the current situation, by the way. You can pull in this area, queue and wait while the other person makes an easy turn, turns around, and exits. And they're exiting from the same location they pull in, which leaves this corner open and clear, easier to see. You don't have a lot of vehicles in and out. It's a real difficult area when you are a pedestrian, as you know. I mean, the curb is nearly flush out there. You come around the corner, you walk into a flush curb, there's a lot of loading areas in there. You come around the corner that's really not defined well, and then into another curb cut that people can be pulling in and out of instantly. So it was just the way that this whole design committee looked at that, and it ended up creating that safe way around this whole parking lot and kind of still maintaining sufficient enough parking. I know that's a broad term. We did lose, I think, 12 spaces in total. If you take both Mechanic and the Washington Street, we lost 12 spaces. But again, going back to the standards, there is not one space in this parking lot that is even 9 feet wide or 18 feet long. Not one. The lane distance between these stalls here are 17 feet in space, even close to your town ordinance of 10 feet by 20 is what the requirements are, with a 20-foot lane. This should be 60 feet long, and it's short about 10 feet from what you need to get a actually true space in there. And the same is true for a number of these spaces along the corner. There's four, excuse me, there's 4 spaces in this lot alone that don't meet those requirements as well. The other ones are tight, but we know you can fit a car into a little bit narrow space. The difficulty with these 2 down here is that they're 17 feet long, ignoring the fact there's a retaining wall in front of them. So a vehicle that's about 18 feet long pulls in there, it actually sticks out beyond the parking space. I think one of those photos showed that. It actually sticks out beyond the parking space, and you can't actually get either one of these vehicles out. If a compact car pulls in there, it works just fine. So I think if you're looking at keeping that number of spaces and trying to keep it the same, I think if you change it entirely to a compact car lot, it might work. But I think that needs to be identified, and you really should put up signs and hold those car sizes down so you don't get one truck pulling in the middle of that lot, kind of oblivious, taking up 3 spaces, pulling in there and blocking everybody else in every other direction. Yes?
Just a comment. I've sat in the design team meetings even before they were a town committee. I just started going. And I've watched the development, the plans, and working with the parking lot. And I understand there are people going, I don't know what to do. I'm used to it. And people are resistant to change. And it's standard fact, and it happens. But I think that if we allow this to go through in a very short time, people will be thankful. It'll be a better place to park.
Yeah. Mark Haskell from up on Pearl Street. Back in the 90s, I was on the Parking Traffic Transportation Committee at that time. And I don't remember that initial discussion he mentioned about the original design of the way it is now. But I do know that since that time, one of the big things that Deb mentioned early on was the parking spaces that we have gained in the downtown area. You start with the lot next to the fire station. That lot was bought originally to build a new fire station public safety building. And I was instrumental, our committee was instrumental in turning that from a gravel lot that was blocked off into a parking lot, because it was sitting there blocked off. We're waiting for the town to vote for the new building. They voted it down and the lot was empty. We ended up turning it into a parking spot. What they've just done in getting parking spots in the lot that they just bought,
Knowlton.
the Knowlton Street lot, you're talking 200 to 300 more spaces than there were.
140.
140.
You're probably including the fire station lots.
Yeah, we're talking 140 plus spaces that weren't here. Losing the 12 and changing that corner from kind of the dregs of town. I hate to say that, but with this falling down wall, the dangerous situation of that road going up there, the repair work that needs to be done. I do remember a discussion with the selectmen a few weeks ago, months ago, when they were talking about the repair work had to be done. So why not do the whole thing at one time rather than end up coming back at a later date? I look at your first proposal with eliminating the entrance, which at first I adamantly thought that's wrong. Now that I see it and look at it, I think it's probably a very good solution to the problem. It opens up that area so that vehicles of the size we have today can get in and out. I'm as guilty as anyone. I have a big truck that I occasionally take downtown, and I've made the mistake of trying to pull into that lot. And it's impossible. And so I think what they're proposing, the first thing, would be a very good thing. Anytime you talk about downtown Camden and no parking, the issue has been going on for the last 40 years that I'm aware of, and I don't think we're going to change it other than we keep adding spaces out of town and out of the area.